Houston. Houston, we have a problem. DJ Apollo has landed. I repeat, DJ Apollo has landed at Hitmix 88.9 WEIU.
Welcome to the Tales of Music and Film podcast. I am DJ Apollo. I just want to say, I hope you're having a very excellent day. And I'm in awe right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so excited to announce this. We are on the 20th episode. Just like that, I'm already 20 episodes into this amazing project. Now, it's no lie to anyone that I am absolutely enjoying this experience. I love this podcast. I love that I get this opportunity to talk about music and films that I love and being able to share that love with you awesome listeners. And just, this has been an amazing experience. I just want to personally thank you for checking my show out. So today we are back on the topic of music yet again, and this particular album that I'm going to discuss today, I'm actually very excited to talk about. This album holds a very special place for me, and this is no ordinary album, folks. We're going to be talking about one of the greatest supergroup albums of all time, if not. We are talking about the famous supergroup called the Traveling Wilburys. Volume 1, which was their first record, and this record is one of my favorites of all time. I have listened to this album from beginning to end countless times. I own it on disc and vinyl, and this is the perfect subject to talk about for the 20th episode. So, the Traveling Wilburys were a British-American supergroup consisting of possibly some of the 5 greatest musicians of all time in one band. You're not going to believe the amount of talent that was in this particular band's lineup. So, the lineup consisted of Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison, and Tom Petty, along with James Lee Keltner as the drummer. Originating from an idea discussed by George Harrison and Jeff Lynne during the sessions for Harrison's 1987 album Cloud 9. The band formed in April 1988 after the 5 members united to record a bonus track for Harrison's next European single. When this collaboration, the song Handle with Care, was deemed too good for such a limited release, the group agreed to record a full album together titled Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. Following Roy Orbison's death in December 1988, the Wilburys released a second album, which they titled Traveling Wilburys Volume 3 in 1990. So that's a little introduction for you of this album, and what really blows my mind about this album is just the amount of talent in this group. It's just like, this is literally like an Avengers level team up right here. You have Tom Petty from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. You have Roy Orbison, one of the grandfathers of rock and roll. Like, this man started out in the 50s just like Elvis Presley. You got Jeff Lynne from Electric Light Orchestra. You got George Harrison from the Beatles. Then you got Bob Dylan, who's like one of the most famous musicians of all time. He's right up there with like Johnny Cash. It's just, man, just having these 5 extraordinary musicians in the same lineup, like, I'm convinced we're never going to see anything like this ever again. It's just, and this was something completely unplanned. If you watch interviews, like, George Harrison talked about how, like, you could not have planned this happening. It just sort of all fell into place. They all knew each other. Some of them had worked on albums before, and George was looking for a few people to write a song with, and it ended up with the 5 members being together, and they're like, you know what? Let's do a project together. Like, the Traveling Wilbury records are just these 5 friends coming together and just having fun doing what they do best, writing music together. And this album is so, like, folky rock. I absolutely love it. Volume 1 was a critical and commercial success, helping to revitalize Dylan and Petty's respective careers. In 1990, the album won Grammy for Best Rock Performance by a Duo or Group. Now, is anyone genuinely surprised? Like, if you want to see how amazing this group was, you can find. So they did 2 music videos for this album, at least 2. You have the Handle with Care music video, and then you have the End of the Line music video. So Handle with Care was their hit single off of this, and funny little story for you. George Harrison was being interviewed once while they were creating the album, and he was talking about this song, how he thinks it's going to be a single. But at the time the interview was taking place, he did not have a song title ready yet. I believe he saw some people moving some crates nearby where the interview was taking place. He saw one of the boxes that said "Handle with Care." So Harrison looks back at the person interviewing him and he goes, "The song's called Handle with Care." So I just think that's so funny to me. It's just like, you never know where a song originates from or where the title comes from. It'll come to you in the oddest times and places, I love those little stories like that. And going back a little bit, Roy Orbison did sadly pass away not long after the album was finished. He did live long enough to film the Handle with Care music video, but he passed away before they could film the End of the Line video. So in the End of the Line music video, End of the Line is the song the album ends with, and it's a magnificent way to finish the record. In that particular music video, all the band members are performing the song inside a train car stage, and when they were performing the song, when it came to Roy's parts, you heard his voice, and there was a empty rocking chair with his guitar laying on top of it. And then the camera pans to a wall in the train car, and it shows a picture of him framed. And I thought that was an amazing tribute for him. And it was very sad and sudden. The band members were devastated with Roy passing away because the 5 of them were best friends, and they were having so much fun. They just formed the band, and then to lose Roy so quickly, it was a major loss. And his death was really tragic, but the good thing is that he went out on top, and he knew it. Like Tom Petty was talking about, if you want, so I'm going to backtrack for a minute. The entire process of them recording this album and writing the songs and everything has all been documented extremely well. You can find dozens of interviews from the band members during that time on YouTube. And there's documentaries out there that you can find about the making of this band and record. And in one of the interviews, Tom was talking about how he was on the phone with Roy just a couple of days before he passed away. And Tom said that Roy was so enthusiastic about the album. He was so excited that the album went triple platinum. And that, he was so excited that his next solo record was coming out. And he knew that he was at the top of his game. So I'm so happy at least that he passed away knowing that he was at the top of his game and that he was at the highest point in his career that he had ever reached. So that's good. That's good, knowing that at least. So the following year after Roy passed away, his next solo record was released titled Mystery Girl, and his single off of that album was You Got It, which, funny enough, him and the guys wrote together. The late 80s was a good time for all these musicians, because after the Traveling Wilburys Volume 1 was released, the following year in 89, Tom released his very first solo album, Full Moon Fever, which I highly recommend you go check out. And fun little fact, a good majority of the fan base consider Full Moon Fever to be the Wilbury Volume 2 record, because for some reason, when the Wilburys recorded their second record together and released it in 1990, they called it Volume 3. Apparently, I think that was a little mistake when they were making it. I don't know. But anyway, since that one was called Volume 3, everybody was wondering, where's Volume 2? And I did some digging, and it looks like a lot of the fans consider Full Moon Fever to be Volume 2, because George Harrison and Jeff Lynne performed on that album on a couple of tracks. So that's where people make that conclusion from. And Full Moon Fever was a huge success for Tom. And George and Jeff are featured in the I Won't Back Down music video. They did the backing track voices for that song. And then, Roy recorded his Mystery Girl record around the same time as well. And the track You Got It, Jeff Lynne, George Harrison, and Tom Petty were backing vocals for that song. So they were all just working together, and they were all featuring each other on all the previous projects they were working on. And so, like I said, from like 88 to 1990, that was a good couple years for all of these musicians. Like, they made history with these records. I think they wrote some of the best songs in their careers. Just to clarify, Roy passed away of a heart attack on December 6, 1988. So Lane recalled that Orbison's death in the wake of Volume 1's success was the most sickening thing to him. He added, "I was devastated for ages. Me and Roy had plans to do much more together, and his voice was in really good shape. It was just so sad for that to happen." Although there was speculation in the press that Dale Shannon or Roger McGuinn might join the Wilburys, the remaining members never considered replacing Orbison. Lane later said, "We become this unit. We were all good pals. We always knew we were going to do another one, and now it's just the four of us." So I really respect them that they didn't try to replace Orbison, because he's irreplaceable, and it is sad that he passed away the way he did, because he was, like I said, top of his game. His voice had sounded the best it ever been. So, but I'm very happy that he passed away knowing that he went out on top and he went out doing what he loved. So that's good. Okay, so like my history with this album is that I actually discovered the Wilbury record on accident. I just happened to be listening to the Beatles once on YouTube. In my recommended section on YouTube, I found, I saw that the Traveling Wilburys songs like Handle with Care, End of the Line, and Rattle, and all those other songs were there, so I checked them out. Dude, Handle with Care, I fell in love with that song instantly. And then I would go on to listen to other songs like End of the Line. Like, I fell in love with this record instantly. I loved the charisma, authentic, just this sound. It was just unlike anything I've ever heard before. And I loved how folky it was. Just these songs, they were feel good stuff. Like, these songs made me really feel something. They made me feel happy, made me want to dance, and that's what a song should do. That leads me into the next part of the album, is these songs. So, like I've already said, the number one hit single off of this record was Handle with Care. Amazing song. The music video, though, is top notch. Like, I love it. That whole music video could be a movie in of itself. It's amazing. I love the mix of the acoustic guitars and the electric guitar, and I just love the way everybody harmonizes their voices together. It's just a beautiful thing to see. Another song on here that I really liked was Rattled, written by Jeff Lynne from Electric Light Orchestra, and that particular song really has like this 50s rock and roll feel to it, with the way the drums are and the guitar play and the way Jeff sings it. I love that, bringing that 50s influence back. Now, I'm telling you right now, this next song, you want to hear how strong Roy Orbison's voice was, especially during this time. Listen to track number 5, Not Alone Anymore. Holy cow. Roy's voice on that song, he gave it everything he had on that track. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, like, nothing's gonna beat, like, Pretty Woman, Only the Lonely, Sweet Candy. Like, there is no way that he could top his voice work in those. And he proved me wrong big time. He sang so strong in this, and I love the story how like he's of like a guy trying to like reconnect with this girl because he really feels a connection with her and he can't lose her kind of thing, you know, saying like, I'm not alone anymore, I have you. And just it's so good. The last like minute of this when Roy like hits the highest point in his voice, it gives me chills. Just he went out swinging, man. Like, he gave it everything he had, and it's breathtaking. And another good song would have to be Congratulations. That's a good one. Funny enough, I was watching an interview with George and some of the other band members, and they talked about how, like, when they were coming up ideas for songs, they would all be sitting around in the living room, like on the couch and stuff with their instruments, or they'd be reading like magazines and stuff, just trying to find like lyrics and stuff to inspire them to write music. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And through that process, the song Congratulations was written. And this one, it's got a more folky sound to it. And it's a lot slower compared to some other songs on this record, but I think it fits the theme. I think it's really good. And then, of course, you got to talk about another huge fave of mine off of this, End of the Line. Literally, the lyrics to this song is just talking about how, like, you know, don't worry so much. Like, your life is far from being over. You know, life is good. It just, when you really listen to the lyrics on this particular track, it just brightens your day up. It's just sending you the message, like, everything's going to work out. Everything's going to be all right. As long as you have people who love you, that's all you need. Just keep living life one day at a time. It's just, oh man, I cannot express how much I love those messages. I just love them so much. When songs have that positive love and self-love for yourself and all that, I absolutely love those kinds of messages. Just amazing. So those are these songs that really stood out to me when I was listening to this. And so getting back to a little more history for you. So the band members decided to create a full album together. Traveling Wilburys Volume 1, video footage of the creative process was later edited by Harrison into a promotional film for Warner Brothers staff titled Whatever Wilbury Wilbury. The album was recorded primarily over a 10-day period in May 1988 to allow for Dylan's limited availability as he prepared for the start of what became known as his never-ending tour, and for Orbison's tour schedule. These sessions were held in a house of Eurythmics member of Dave Stewart in Los Angeles. That was a band that Dave was in, and he allowed them to record in his house. The 5 band members sat in a circle playing acoustic guitars in Stewart's kitchen. Each song's basic track had been written and recorded there, with accompanied from a drum machine. The group recorded their vocals in another room, usually after dinner each night. Petty recalled that as a friend, but also a huge fan of Dylan's, Harrison felt the need to clear the air on the first day by saying to Dylan, "We know that you're Bob Dylan and everything, but we're going to just treat you and talk to you like we would anyone else." And Dylan literally just replied with, "Well, great. Believe it or not, I'm in awe of you guys, and it's the same for me." So I think that's so cool to me. How, like, these guys didn't let their egos get the better of them. They all knew who they were, and they just wanted to, you know, start a group together and just write songs, and most importantly, just have some fun, not take it so serious. And if you watch, like these sessions were documented extremely well, and I love how you can go back and watch that stuff whenever you want to. It's amazing just watching them having so much fun. Just these 5 heroes, these legends, just sitting together, eating some food, having dinner, then they would pick up an instrument to start writing songs together. It's just, it gives you the biggest feel of old friends reconnecting and having some fun. Just, I love it so darn much. The impact of Volume 1. Volume 1 was a critical and commercial success. As Harrison had intended, the album defied contemporary musical trends such as hip-hop, acid house, and synthesized pop. The album produced 2 successful singles that went on to achieve a triple platinum certification for sales in the United States. Really, that's the overall impact of this album. And Handle with Care has been covered so many times over the years. My favorite cover of Handle with Care, and the most genuine good version in my opinion, is when Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers performed this song in 2002 at the George Harrison tribute concert, and Jeff Lynne sang with Tom and he filled in for Roy's parts, and George Harrison's son played guitar on stage with them as well. So like, a lot of the fans consider that moment to be the final Wilbury performance, and rightfully so. Jeff Lynne reunited with Electric Light Orchestra a couple years ago, back in 2019, and they did a massive tour. And I watched this really cool video where Jeff invited George's son back on stage, and the two of them covered "Handle with Care," and the crowd just went completely crazy. So I think that just shows you the impact this album had. The Traveling Wilburys is what I consider to be one of the greatest supergroups of all time. It's just, can you really name any other groups that had this much talent in it? And just, what a remarkable achievement that was reached. And just, they made rock and roll history with this. And over 30 years later, this album is extremely popular. I've watched countless videos on YouTube of fans listening to their music for the very first time, and I just love their reactions. They get absolutely blown away with how amazing the songs sound, and it warms my heart knowing that 30 plus years later, this album is getting the same love it was receiving when it was released. I love it so much, and sadly, there are only 2 Traveling Wilbury members left still alive. We have Jeff Lynne and Bob Dylan. Roy, of course, was the first to die in '88, and then George Harrison passed away from cancer in 2002, and then Tom Petty passed away due to an accidental overdose in 2017. So now we're just down to Bob Dylan and Jeff Lynne. And it is sad, though, that a lot of them are gone already. But wherever they are, I'm sure they're happy knowing that this record is still extremely loved by the viewers. And this album, I think, it's going to continue to get way more popular. I highly recommend you check this record out. The music on this, everything on this record from beginning to end, makes you feel good, makes you really appreciate life, and really helps you think about what is most important to you. And I'm so happy that I got the opportunity to talk about the Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. And this particular recording is really special to me that I'm at 20 episodes. I had so much fun recording this, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And just to give you a little preview, the next couple of movies that I will be reviewing on this podcast is going to be Aliens from 1986, followed by Dr. Sleep. And those are going to be the final 2 films for the Scary Movie Marathon for this year. I had a load of fun this month covering nonstop scary movies, but now we're going to revert back to our normal schedule. I have a long list of movies that I cannot wait to cover, and you can find the Tales of Music and Film podcast on the WEIU website. You can also find the podcast on Spotify, Anchor, ready to go. This is DJ Apollo here on the Tales of Music and Film.